Tonight on The Late Debate. The man on a mission to oust Sadiq Khan, Minister for London Paul Scully, wants to be Conservative candidate for mayor and declares war on ULEZ.
Extension, I would scrap day one. I really hope it doesn't come in. I hope the mayor sees sense. I hope the court case succeeds.
Also tonight, frustrated by politics, the first-time buyers losing hope of ever getting on the housing ladder.
We're both on £80,000 between us, which is a good household income to be on. We're not complacent by any means at all. But what we are finding that in the capital city, it's impossible to get on the housing ladder.
And bruised by the local elections, have the Tories got what it takes to bounce back and stay in power? Hello and welcome to The Late Debate. The local elections were a night most Conservatives will want to forget. From Windsor in the west to Brentwood in the east, support crumbled, leaving some to wonder how long Rishi Sunak can cling on at number 10. In London, getting a grip on the cost of housing and spiralling rents could prove a vote winner, but can any party crack the problem? To discuss that, I'll be joined shortly by tonight's panel. Labour MP Marshall de Cordova, for the Conservatives Theresa Villas, for the Liberal Democrats Baroness Ollie Grender. But first, the housing crisis is an issue the Tory MP for Sutton and Cheam can't ignore. Paul Scully, the Minister for London, has his sights set on being London's next mayor. He's become the latest Tory pitching to be his party's candidate. I spoke to him earlier and began by asking him if he liked Sadiq Khan.
We get on, we work together collaboratively, especially through COVID, but I've seen him also deflect, not deliver. And this is not Sadiq Khan's city, this is Londoners' city, 9 million people's city. And so we need someone who can deliver on housing, transport and crime. And that's why I think I'm the best person to do that. That's why I'm putting my name forward.
You say it's not Sadiq Khan's city, it's also perceived to be a Labour city.
Yeah, but this is also about Londoners who want better from that. So I will be, should I be the mayor, I will be a mayor who is a Conservative. I'm not going to be a party patsy. I'm going to be someone who actually delivers. I've already worked with the mayor, with Labour councillors, with Labour MPs, as well as Conservatives and Liberals. And so it's important that actually it's someone that can focus on the task at hand, not the tribal politics.
Let's talk policies. ULEZ, first of all, the extension.
Extension, I would scrap day one. I really hope it doesn't come in. I hope the mayor sees sense. I hope the court case succeeds, or one of the other areas of investigation to stop that happening. But should it be there in August, by May, the extension will be stopped. Should I be
What
mayor.
about air quality, people's lives?
Yeah, I mean, ULEZ in central London works. It works really well because there's proper alternatives, and that's where the concentration of cars are. But the cost to the benefit just doesn't work out. It's about reducing air pollution, according to the mayor's own records, by 1.5%. It talks about it's negligible. So punishing people with a £12.50 fine is just way too much. Use the money to have a better scrappage system, to carry on the electrification of the buses.
But the money will already have been spent by the time of the mayoral election. It'll have gone.
Yeah, but we need to work out how we get to the next stage. That's why I'm asking the mayor to pause it now. That's why people are rising and saying stop it now, so that the mayor that doesn't spend more of that money.
Don't Londoners want their mayor to be ambitious about air quality?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's why I think we should use the money to have alternatives, because all this is going to do, this is just moving around the edges actually. The mayor keeps talking about hardly anyone's going to be affected. Well, let's do positive things where everybody will be affected. Give them proper alternatives to use public transport where they can, but don't punish car users who need to move around London.
One of the minority parties, Reform UK, has chosen Howard Cox, the Fair Fuel campaigner, as their candidate. Are you worried that will split the anti-ULEZ vote?
Well, it's possible, but I mean, what I think I offer beyond just ULEZ is how we get the rest of transport working, because TfL is pretty well bust. You've got the Met Police in special measures, you've got the Fire Brigade in special measures, and just not enough houses are being built. You've got to look at all of that in the round.
So how are you going to get TfL working?
I've got that experience, and I've got that that understanding of the issues. So TfL, we've got to look really carefully at the finances, make some difficult decisions with the board of TfL, with the unions and with government, because all of those need to be working.
Would you press
which they
ahead
haven't
with
been.
pension reform?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've got to modernise the transport system and the workings of it. That's going to be
Even though it's going to lead to more strikes?
Well, that's going to need to have careful consideration with the unions to see what more. I'm always very open. In my role as Minister for Business, I worked with the TUC, with various unions, to make sure that we could work as collaboratively as possible rather than pitched battles, because they never work.
If you abolish the ULEZ extension, that will lead to a loss of income for TfL. So would Londoners have to expect, under you, fares going up?
No, because the Mayor's own plans show that the income is there for only a couple of years, because he's then expecting behaviour change, and that's why he's consulting on, or the TfL Transport Committee in the GLA are consulting on per mile road pricing, and that's something I don't think we should be going down. It's not for the Mayor to be able to do that. But look, we need to look at TfL finances in the round. I'm not going to sit there and talk to you about fares and talk about any particular areas until I've actually seen the budget in the round, because that's really important that we get it right.
You hold 2 ministerial posts, including Minister for London. Are you going to stand down from those for the duration of this contest?
I don't currently hold them. Well, I'm pausing my activity as Minister for London.
What does that mean?
So I won't be doing anything proactive as Minister for London.
London no longer has a Minister for London.
Should I be selected, I will step down as Minister for London. So that's the Prime Minister's gift to then look at what he wants to do.
Shouldn't you step down as a minister, full stop?
At the moment, this is an internal election within the Conservative Party. I'll look at my areas of conflict with tech and digital economy and my time. But in the meantime, I also have some really important work to do to keep people safe online with the Online Safety Bill, to make sure that our tech companies in London that are challenging some of the big tech can continue to operate without threat of disruption through our Digital Markets Bill, getting our semiconductors right. So there's a lot of work to be done there as well, which will affect Londoners positively.
The Lib Dems think there's a possibility this might be a breach of the ministerial code. Are you worried about that?
No, because if they'd bothered asking me, I would have told them I've already sought advice from the Propriety and Ethics team in the civil service, and that's it. I'm following exactly the advice that they've given.
But there is a precedent. When Frank Dobson, Health Secretary, stood to be the Labour candidate in 1999 and Glenda Jackson, Transport Minister, stood to be the Labour candidate at the same time, they both resigned their posts.
Yeah, look, I'm not sure I'm going to be Minister by the time of the election, and because we'll look at the conflict in the tech and digital economy. As I say, there is a perceived threat
but they gave up their ministerial post
London
just to try to secure the nomination
as
Labour candidate.
Yeah, but as I say, I've sought advice, and this is the advice that I've got given, because clearly I do not want to be in conflict, and it's absolutely right that that I follow that advice, which I agree with. And so, step back from Minister for London, or resign if I get a candidate. In terms of just time, frankly, as well as potential conflict, I'll see what happens with the ministerial post. The Prime Minister, it's his gift, he will see, obviously, as well. I don't want to be presumptuous. But, my focus will gradually shift more and more, should I get selected as the Conservative candidate, into that really, really important role, tackling transport, tackling housing, tackling crime.
But you can't win, can you?
Absolutely, I can win. If you see people looking at Sadiq Khan for the first time because of the ULEZ, they've seen this inactivity, they've seen this deflection over years. Finally, they've seen him make a decision, and they hate the decision that he's taken. So they're now looking behind it. They're looking about how rude, obnoxious, and the approach that he takes to scrutiny. The scrutineers when he looks at the London Assembly, the disparaging way he treats them. Just think what he's doing behind the scenes for Londoners. He believes this is a city about him. He likes the title. Londoners deserve better. I think when they look at what they could have, it's a great. They'll change their mind and they'll come to Conservatives, because that's where the motivation is required. That's why they'll come to me, because I'm experienced. I have the temperament. I have the understanding of the issues. That's what Londoners need.
Paul Scully, thank you for talking to us. Well, listening closely to Paul Scully's plan for London will be thousands of young Londoners desperate to buy their first home, but their prospects look bleaker than ever. A combination of soaring rents, rising house prices, plus spiralling household bills could push the dream of home ownership beyond reach. Like many couples, Dan and his girlfriend dream of buying their first home.
A one-bedroom would probably be around sort of 500 to 550.
But a rent increase forced them to move from inner London to the suburbs, so their commuting costs have risen. And despite earning good salaries, they're struggling to save enough for a deposit.
We're both on £80,000 between us, which is a good household income to be on. We're not complacent by any means at all. But what we are finding that in the capital city, it's impossible to get on the housing ladder on that sort of salary.
In 2017, the Mayor's London plan called for around 65,000 new homes to be built every year during this decade. But according to the Office of National Statistics, just 37,000 were finished in the financial year 2021 to 2022. When he first ran for mayor, Sadiq Khan promised to make London's housing crisis his priority, and he claims some success.
In the last 6 years of me being the mayor, we've had more completions of homes than any time since the 1930s. In the last few years of me being the mayor, we've built more council homes than any time since the 1970s, but we need to build many more.
So we've got a kitchen which genuinely will hold everything you need for sensible amount of cooking.
Mark's property firm specialises in compact, affordable one-bedroom flats for first-time buyers. In Kennington, they sold for £340,000 last summer. Mark has studied the housing crisis closely.
A city like London, a world city after all, only 2% of our current housing stock in London is intermediate for people on low to middle incomes. They earn too much to be eligible for social housing, but they can never get on the housing ladder as it stands.
This week, Labour promised to restore mandatory house building targets and, controversially, allow developers onto some parts of the Green Belt.
We think it would be valuable for government, whatever government, to actually undertake a strategic review of the nature of the Greenbelt in this country, to identify potentially whether there are areas of Greenbelt which aren't performing particularly well from an environmental point of view that could make way for meeting the vital housing needs of our country.
Underlying the housing crisis is a basic and simple truth. Not enough new homes are being built. To discuss that, I'm joined by the Labour MP for Battersea, Marcia de Cordova, for the Conservatives, Chipping Barnet MP, Teresa Villas, and for the Liberal Democrats, Baroness Ollie Grenda. Welcome, all of you. I think everyone agrees that there is a housing crisis, that the prices are too high, demand is high, there aren't enough homes, rents are soaring, interest rates are going up, young aspiring homeowners don't think they'll get on the housing ladder. I want to ask all of you what you think the answer is. Can I start with you first, Teresa?
We need the right homes in the right places. So we need to continue to deliver volume, and 2.2 million new homes have been built since the Conservatives returned to office. So there is new housing coming on stream, but we have to make sure that we protect the environment in our capital city. And that means ensuring that, for example, development in the suburbs is consistent with the low-rise, open nature of the suburbs.
Because you've made it clear you're opposed to some development in the constituency that you represent, Chipping Barnet.
Yeah, I mean, the local Labour Council has plans for 47,000 more homes in Barnet, and that's a vast number. And I think we need to make sure that we don't repeat the mistakes of the 60s and 70s. If we continue to jam in equivalent numbers to that, then, you know, we risk turning the suburbs into East Berlin, and future generations won't thank us for that.
Marcia?
Well, essentially, I think we all know people need homes. We need good homes, we need safe and decent and affordable homes, and it's really good that, you know, Labour are committed to reintroducing targets, as the government have yet again chosen to scrap any targets. And what we're already seeing is, in London, Sadiq is actually, you know, getting on track and building more homes for Londoners. He's already exceeded the targets that have been set by government. And just in this last year, he started to build over 25,000 new homes. But it's really disappointing that for young first-time buyers, there aren't enough homes coming on stream. And that's why it's important as well to look at other parts, you know, not mistaking things like for green belts, for green fields in terms of building, because there are some great examples of where that is already happening and homes are being built for people. But crucially, we also have to look at rents in London and across the country. And that's why, again, with Sadiq wanting to see more rent controls being introduced. So, you know, people can, you know, homes are affordable to both buy as well as rent.
Ollie, do the Lib Dems have any answers?
Well, across the country, there are 1 million sites for homes that have permission and planning permission and haven't been started. And I think that's scandalous. So, you know, kind of introducing some kind of measures where, frankly, developers who are simply sitting on those sites have to give up that land is one way. So we have a proposal of that nature where they literally lose the land and it goes back into auction for other developers. And I think that's important. I'd just like to start at the kind of bottom end as well. You know, the the whole issue of social housing has been such a nightmare across London, and the failure to build. So from my own neck of the woods, the Liberal Democrats in Kingston have quite a significant package to build a lot of social housing, and it's the largest amount in decades. I think that's critically important because that underpins everything. Then you can start having the first-time buyers. But unless you sort out that safety net of tenure first, everything else is very, very difficult.
Teresa, you led a very successful campaign against developments in your constituency. Obviously, that's going to lead to charges of NIMBYism. But is it because you've got a low majority there? You're defending a seat with a majority of just 1,200, aren't you?
I'm not going to make apologies for defending the local environment of my constituents. They care about these issues and they deserve an MP who will fight for their interests, which is what I've done. But there are more sites that across inner city areas where more housing could be delivered. Now, I'm grateful to the government for spending around 11.7 billion is allocated to deliver new social housing. Getting those regeneration sites, those brownfield sites in city areas cleaned up so that they can make way for homes there, I think is a really positive way, again, to get this balance so that we deliver new homes for young people, but we don't do it at the cost of our suburban environment.
Marcia, you talked about social housing, but do politicians of all parties recognise that home buyers, aspiring home buyers, are voters that you need to win over? And this is a real crisis as far as they're concerned.
It's a crisis for people that want to buy their first home, but Ollie already mentioned it. It is also, there is a crisis in terms of social homes, and that's why I'm really pleased in Labour Wandsworth now that they've committed to building 1,000 new council homes, and that's already started. That work is actually happening, because what we've had for a long period of time is not enough social homes being built. So when we look at housing, you have to look at it across the piece. We need social homes, but we need more genuinely affordable homes, which is something, again, that the Mayor of London has been committed to doing and has started doing and is delivering on more homes for people.
However, as we know from the London plan, the target is far exceeds anything Sadiq Khan has managed to build. He said fixing housing would be his top priority when he was elected mayor in 2016. Well, yeah. his top priority now seems to be air quality. Do you think he's accepted that it really is an insurmountable task?
Well, it's not an either or, is it? You've got to build more homes and you've got to look after our environment, and air quality is equally as important. So you can't create hierarchies, Simon. Each are equally as important. And I think, Sadiq has delivered, or we've already seen over 116,000 homes start to be built over the past 6 years. So that is actually progress being made. And when you compare that to his predecessor, when you think in the context of social homes, many weren't being built. I think the numbers are woeful, frankly. So he is delivering for London, and he's delivering in all other areas, as we know, as well.
But it is truly shocking that Keir Starmer wants to build on the Greenbelt. That has protected our capital city for over half a century, and now it's in jeopardy.
I think ultimately there, as I said earlier, we have to distinguish, from greenbelts and greenfields. And, sometimes technically spaces are classified as green belt. But we know that in many cases, for example, in Tottenham, in North London, for instance, a petrol station was designated as a green belt, but actually that site could be used to actually build more affordable homes, which is what is actually happening right now. So what's really important here, and what Keir is absolutely right on, is about devolving those powers out to local authorities. They know their areas. They can actually designate and also allocate land to be built so we can build homes for people. I mean, everyone would agree that we need more homes for people to live in.
Ollie, the charge laid against your party is that you want to have it both ways. In by-elections and local elections, you talk about stopping developers, but you nationally talk about wanting to build more homes. In the recent local elections in Windsor and Maidenhead, the Lib Dems, who took the council from the Tories, had leaflets saying we'll stop development on greenfield sites.
Yeah. So we don't agree with developing on greenfield sites. I mean, we've been very clear about that. I would come back to this business about I worry that this Conservative government is letting so many developers off the hook. Let's remember, about 20% of donations to the Conservative Party are from developers. And I think these developers are holding up sites. They are not building the houses that they've agreed to build. And and this government is a soft touch when it comes to penalising them on this. And I think it's very significant. on the issue of do we face both, we listen to communities in local areas. We bring people over the line about new build, but I've knocked on plenty of doors in these local elections where people are really worried about a development that doesn't have a GP surgery, a development that doesn't have decent bus services. And you have to bring that in at the same time.
Theresa, how bad a night was it for the Tories in the local elections?
It was really grim. It really was. It was a very bad set of election results for us, and it is a reminder, if we didn't need it, but a reminder that we must fix the economy. We must halve inflation. We must grow the economy. We must deal with debts. These key priorities the Prime Minister has set out, we've got to make sure we deliver on them so people start seeing their living standards rising again. We're making progress. Inflation is forecast to come down, wages are rising, but there is more to do before we can be confident of election victory in the future.
It was a good night for the Lib Dems. Labour didn't do quite so well. Now, no councils in London were up for grabs, but around London, you might have expected Labour to take Dartford or Thurrock from the Conservatives, but they didn't. Do you think that's the ULEZ effect?
Well, first off, it was a catastrophic night for the Conservatives, and Labour did well. They made a number of gains, in the South East. I mean, I was down in Swindon and we won Swindon Council, but we gained councils from Brighton to Medway to Hertsmere. So Labour are doing well in these local elections. They did well. And, imagine if we had elections in London and other places. I think the night would have been absolutely different. But, Labour gained over 500 seats. We are now the largest party in local government, and that hasn't happened since 2002. So that is progress going in the right direction for Labour.
Ollie, you worked with Paddy Ashdown back in the days when there was talk of a Labour Liberal Democrat coalition government.
Yeah.
Is that back on the cards again?
Oh, so I have to talk about a processy thing. I don't get to wax lyrical about my result like the others two did. But anyway, let's just park that up for a second. We are very, very focused on winning a whole ton of seats, mostly off the Conservatives. Apologies, Theresa. But we feel it's really time. It's time that this Conservative government was out. And we are hugely focused on that. Now, I knocked on a lot of doors in the local elections. And what was really striking everywhere that I went, and we talk about the blue wall seats, was just, kind of how many people were so angry with the Conservatives. And it's not about fixing the economy, because everyone knows that
Ollie,
it was the Conservative government that broke the economy in the first place.
We have run out of time. Thank you very much. That's all for tonight. Thank you to all my guests, Paul, Marsha, Theresa and Ollie. We'll be back next month. Until then, good night and thank you for watching.